Hello, Dublin. It's amazing to be back on this stage. It's the first time this year, but the second time in a row. And I feel really, and everybody says excited at this point. I feel slightly more than that. I feel at home. This is an amazing audience. This is probably the best audience that I get to speak in front of, because you're all here. You know what you're here for. It's obviously the free food and the drinks outside. And you know, it's good to have clear goals in mind. I do talk about the web quite a lot. And I do talk about, so come talk to me, and I will mainly talk at you about AMP and PWA until you're tired of me and you actually implement it on your websites, and then I can move on. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about something else that is possible on the web. We'll talk about surprise. Also, I was going to mention, I won the competition for the longest title of the presentation. Thank you. It wasn't going to be this long. All I was going to try to say is, you know that thing that people hate about your website? Take it away. That's it. That's the title. And pretty much that's the substance of the talk as well. Big number. Always start the presentation with a big number. Any guesses as to what this number is? Could be anything. Could be the distance from here to Pluto. Only it's in dollars for some reason. $2.3 trillion is apparently the volume of e-commerce for 2017. That's all of it. That's not mobile or desktop. That's not split between the web and apps. This is just general. I have no idea how they calculated this, but I have a source. So that's important. Serendipitously, but also nicely, the next number looks very much the same, right? Now it's 23. And that's the expected growth rate of that number for this year. If you can count in your head quickly, you've calculated already that's about $500 billion. That's $500 billion that we're all going to make. More. It's great. More free food for everybody for the next conversions event. But you know what the problem is? There's not enough free food. Because we could be making 3 times as much. 69% is the drop-off rate in a given study, but still a significant number, at the checkout stage. So every 2 out of 3 customers visit our website, and remember, you're paying for the traffic, whichever way you're attracting it. They get to the checkout stage. Actually, they've selected the products that they like. You know, the redesign has convinced them that these particular sandals in that color is exactly something they've been looking for all these years. And then they put it in the cart, and they're happily trudging along to the checkout stage. And then they go, yeah, no, you know, I'm off. That's it. I'm done. And you know why? Because the majority of users indicate again and again that the most painful part of the online shopping experience, be it on the web or in apps or anywhere else, is the checkout process. We make the last step the most unpleasant one. Are we crazy? Those of you who were here last year, remember this guy. Those of you who are new, say hello to my little friend. It's you, it's me. So it's you when you look at your conversion rates. It's me when I look at your websites and apps. And it's our users that look at the same. It's all of us in this one powerful image, which I want you to keep in mind until you go back to your development teams and actually change it for the better. 2 things are critical in this challenge to drive people from people with carts to people with goods outside your shop. The complexity of the checkout process itself, and that is going to be the first part of our talk. And then the need, or the lack of a need, to create an account in order to get to that purchase. There's many things that you can do to simplify the checkout process. And some of the talks today have covered, and other talks today and tomorrow will cover certain aspects of design, certain aspects of form design, and so on. For example, a great tool that you could leverage here is form autofill. Right? If you could give your users the chance to spend a little bit less time typing out every single last little detail. That's already great. But the ultimate goal that we're pursuing here, and I hope you are able to join us on this path, is to get rid of the concept of the checkout flow. There is no flow. There doesn't need to be a flow. There only needs to be a tap. I got to the point where I got the thing that I want in my hand. Just take my money, let me have the thing. It's 1 tap, 2 taps max is all you need to get the user out of your shop, only wanting to come back again because they want to buy more. We've had a number of different solutions over the years aimed at simplifying, sometimes complicating, the checkout process. And we got our stuff together sometime around the end of last year, beginning of this year, rebranded everything, because that's obviously the best thing you could ever do. But here it actually made some sense. We rebranded everything under a single umbrella of Google Pay, or GPay for short, which is going to be one, not saying the only, but one of your best solutions for maximum simplification of the checkout process. And let's see specifically how and why. Now, what is GPay? If you haven't heard about it enough, let me cover it in a little bit of detail. We start by capturing a heck of a lot of data. People making purchases across all of Google's surfaces, be it YouTube, Google Play, even surprisingly enough, or unsurprisingly enough, your websites. If you go to an e-commerce platform and make a purchase whilst using Chrome as a browser, then Chrome will offer you the chance to save your credentials, your payment credentials, basically your credit card number, if you're using it for the first time. That has allowed us over time, transparently, with users' permission and the ability to give them full control, not only of the data that is being saved, but also the transactions that are being conducted, to gather hundreds of millions of users' credentials. We have started by leveraging this inside our own products and making it simpler for people to make purchases on Google's properties using these saved credentials. The next logical step was to offer this opportunity to everybody. Everybody in this room, everybody outside this room, everybody outside this building, and in fact, globally. We call users with payment credentials saved inside their Google account ready to pay. And you know why we call them that? Because they're ready to pay. This is data from one specific partner that has kindly shared and gave us the permission to show it to you. But I can tell you that others are seeing similar results. People that complete the checkout process using their credentials saved with their Google account are sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times, sometimes, like in this case, over 60% more likely to actually complete the process than, wait a second, not just those who don't have any sort of payment credentials saved anywhere and just have to type up everything, from scratch. This is compared to people who actually saved their payment credentials with this specific merchant. So think about this. Even if you're already capturing user data inside your own accounts, inside the accounts that you create for your users, and you're trying to leverage that as much as possible inside the checkout flow, but it still consists of multiple steps and only surfaces at the very end, people are still much more likely to drop out than if you let them give their money to you as soon as they're ready. Google Pay works across platforms, mobile, desktop, operating systems, browsers, it doesn't matter. As long as a user is signed in and the platform is somehow able to determine that there is a Google account active, it will leverage that. It will provide you the credentials if they are available. This is important to remember. When you implement this, if you run into a user, or rather if a user comes to your website or app that doesn't have a Google account, nothing's going to happen. Your current checkout flow will kick in, and with some probability, they will hopefully get to conversions anyway. But for those of them who have these credentials ready, and I mentioned this before, there's hundreds of millions, the simplified checkout flow will kick in. Not only is it available across browsers and operating systems, the same consistent experience, the look and feel of this that people are getting more and more used to, is available across multiple online and even offline platforms. What you see there on the right, actually, sorry, always is on your left, is the offline checkout process. So the same data that I left securely with Google whilst making a purchase, let's say on Google Play, will be available for me inside an offline shop. So for those of you with multi-channel experiences, this is literally gold. Well, probably dollars or euros or pounds. Security is a key consideration, obviously, during monetary transactions. This interface is separate from the browser, separate from your website. It's generated by the browser, but it's separate from the browser in the sense that the UI that you see appearing here, which allows the user to complete the transaction in one tap, cannot be click-jacked by any third-party malicious player that might be potentially lurking on your website or on their device. The click that you will get here is 100% secure and 100% foolproof and tamper-proof. But let me show you how this works. And hell yeah, it's a live demo. Nothing could go wrong. Should be live presenting. Way, it's working. I'm already happy. Everything else is bonus from here onwards. So this is our demo shop, where I've landed looking for, a present, let's say, for my wife. I'm going to check out some outerwear. Nothing special going on here. We see the, sort of the listing page, various products. Let's say I like this one. Seems to work nicely. I can change size if I want to. But then at the bottom, I have the Buy with Google Pay button. This is the one button that I need to click on to immediately get to my payment credentials. And thank you very much for taking photos at this specific moment in time. This is also being broadcast live, so who cares? As you can see, you get all the information that you need, including the actual card number, including the shipping address, right? My email, so you can communicate with me about my order. Let's imagine for a second that you don't want to collect shipping addresses because you deliver virtual goods or because you don't require shipping. Let's say you're selling tickets or something that only need to be sent electronically. There will be 30 lines of code in this presentation. This is going to be them, right? And I'm also demonstrating them live. So check that out. This is all the code that you need to implement this. So first of all, in my world, that's kind of cool. And second of all, let's imagine you need to modify something, like your business experience doesn't fit with the default options provided here. Right? You don't accept Visa for some reason, for example. God knows, I don't know who doesn't accept Visas, but let's say you don't. And also, let's say you don't need a shipping address. Right? Let's set that to false. And let's try this again. Boom. There's no more shipping address selected. And since my Visa is no longer accepted and I don't have a different payment method saved, it's offering me to enter my card number. And check this out as a bonus. How many of you have a native implementation of card scanning done on your websites? A couple of hands, well done, you. This is free. Just go get this stuff. So yeah, there you go. That's 30 lines of code, the last code you're going to see in this presentation. We can switch back to the slides. Thank you. Ideal. To show that if some of you, in fact, you know what? Does anybody recognize the name of the company on this NASCAR slides? No? Oh, I'm just missing the hands. Whoa, I see a hand. Amazing. Thank you. Well done, you. I hope you're having a great experience with this. We'll talk later. Or you can all talk to that person. Like, there was a hand in the back. It's being broadly accepted all over the world. Inside apps, in physical stores, and increasingly on the web. The experience, I need to qualify this a little bit in case you have questions to preempt them. So the experience on the web is already global. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. The experience in-app is for the moment, still geographically limited to countries where Google Pay is available as an app. But the good news is just last week at I/O, we've announced that we are rolling it out globally later this year, so it will truly become a global payment solution for everybody, everywhere. Let's recap this part, and we're just about at halftime. Uncomplicated checkout. In fact, forget the concept of flow. Move towards a tap. That's all you need for the user to give you their money and walk away with your goods. Google Pay is by no means the only solution for you to accept people's money. There's multiple others, but this is the one that leverages hundreds of millions of payments credentials saved globally. It's secure, and we pay a lot of attention to it remaining, so it's secure both for you in terms of clickjacking and other things. It's secure for the users in terms of the security of the payment data, the ability to check out the transactions that they've performed in the past, and so on. And it works across browsers, operating systems, and even multiple devices, including offline. If you want to learn more about this is as much for those who are watching us live and watching this video, check out these links. They will help you along all these lines, including some very interesting content on best recommendations for forms creation under the autofill link. Let you finish taking photos there. All right. And don't forget to check out this particular session from I/O that just happened, where I've lifted most of the slides, to be frank, but also adding a little bit of local flair. So hopefully you're getting some added value there. Plus, at least 2 other I/O sessions that were dedicated, they're also linked from this video. So the video is about 30 minutes in total. You can watch it on like double speed or 1.5 speed. It's totally worth your time. Gives plenty more examples and plenty more references to things you can send on to your developers, because as you know, I/O is a developer conference, so there's plenty more meat and lots more lines of code than what you saw today. This is the water drinking slide. Remember what the second part was going to be about? Account creation. That's that other beastie that scares people away from giving you their money. That's a lot of people, 35%. I mean, theoretically, I don't know, I'm maybe not the most regular user, but I can understand why people would be reluctant to create an account. They don't really know why you need to create an account to make a purchase. What are you going to do with it? Are you just going to spam them over email with other offers? Or you're going to provide useful added value services like order follow-up or further related interesting promotions that might actually interest them. So people are definitely reluctant to do it. And one part of it as well is that people are trained to expect a painful experience during account creation. And most importantly, they're trained to expect a painful experience trying to remember what the heck they created and which password they used and so on. We've tried lots of different approaches to talking about identity. And I'm not saying that this is a completely new one, but we thought about 4 key principles that apply both to you and the users kind of simultaneously in creating the most seamless and painless sign-up and sign-in flow you can think of. And these are security, quality, and I'll explain what we mean by that, friction, that one hopefully is a little bit self-explanatory. However, strangely, this is the one on which I spend the most slides because it's the prettiest one. And finally, implementation, right? The ease of implementation, the ease of introducing these solutions and implementing the solutions. Let's start with security. Let you take it in this text on slides. People need time to read text on slides. The way we've been dealing with security on the web for years now has been dictated by the way it has been set up during those years. However, the state in which we find ourselves now is pretty dire. We've taught users, we've taught each other, that accounts consist of usernames, which if we're lucky also correspond to our emails, but not always. Some people still insist on creating usernames which are not the user's emails, and password combinations. And because we no longer use just the 2 websites that existed, I don't know, 35, 40 years ago, where it was totally acceptable to, of course, remember a single username password combination, we live in a world with hundreds of millions of websites and potentially thousands of services that we use over our lifetimes, we either become brain geniuses with memories of a herd of elephants, where we can remember multiple password and username combinations for everywhere where we go, or we start committing sins. We start committing the sin of creating simple passwords, which are simple to remember, but they're simple to crack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is still the most popular password out there, closely followed by the word password. I mean, who needs phishing? They are easily forgotten, creating a burden on your support systems with all those people knocking on your door and saying, oh, what the hell was my password? And you need to send them emails and they need to come back in. And even if there is not so much of a burden in terms of people time spent on supporting those users, there's still a huge risk of a user losing their account access and never coming back to you, feeling, yeah, whatever, I'll find some other place where I can do the same thing, where I can purchase the same good or get the same service. As I mentioned, well, actually, I haven't mentioned this. They are reused across multiple platforms. And the danger of that is that even if you have built a completely secure and well thought through account management system, it's only as secure as your least secure password, as the least secure password of the user stored in there. Because as soon as they're compromised somewhere else, they're immediately compromised inside your system as well. And any data they might be storing inside your system, any transactional history, anything else that might fall into the wrong hands, immediately becomes available to the world, no matter how hard you try to prevent that. And so they're stolen, they're phished. It's hard. It's not the best approach to this. The other side of this coin of difficulties with account creation is the quality of the account information that you actually get. First of all, for many of you, trying to generate leads, or even literally to get these accounts for follow-up and additional information, you end up getting emails like that. Because people don't know why you're asking for this. They're tempted to provide fake information. They might be purposefully trying to spam you. People will create fake accounts with fake emails just in order to get on your platform, spam the comments, spam the reviews, do all sorts of other nefarious things you wouldn't want to happen on your platform. Or there might be completely well-meaning users who just find it damn hard to type on a device the size of this. Even larger devices. I mean, this is generally presented in the context of a mobile device. But even on desktops, we make typos, we misspell things, we forget I don't know, an M in the com or something similar. And for the user, it's annoying. For you, it's a lost opportunity because the account that ends up being created despite the friction is still useless for you because you can't do anything with it. We've come up, again, and this has been around for a while now, with a solution to solve, hopefully, for both of these problems, for the security and the quality aspect of it. In general, we're not the only ones, again. There's plenty of federated identity, as this approach is called, providers globally that allow you to bypass, at account creation stage, the need to force users into creating new usernames and new passwords. You just leverage the existing accounts with Google, with other providers, learn to process those tokens and recognize those users whenever they come back to you. What you get with Google, though, is a near bulletproof guarantee that the email that you get is real. That it's a real user. There is definitely not going to be a typo, and the likelihood that this is going to be a spammy user is, according to some of our studies, several times lower than for non-Google accounts or non-Gmail accounts. And at the same time, by using Google as your identity provider, into the bargain with it, you get a team of security specialists, and it's a large team, believe me, that has been working for years on Google's own internal security systems. You get Google-grade account security for your users for a couple of lines of code of implementation. But that's not all. That's not all the problems that we have in the process. Apart from enabling security and ensuring quality, we still haven't gotten rid of the friction. And this is where the one-tap sign-up solution comes in. Again, it's not completely new. It's been around for a while, but I think now, hopefully, you will see it in the right context. When you, for example, got a new device, or you open a website or an app that you use regularly on a different device than you do, you're generally faced with this, and you don't know what to do with it, because you don't remember how you signed up here and how to proceed. And then this happens. Note everybody remembers this story? Almost had a nuclear holocaust, but luckily it was avoided because of I think the person who was probably sending the missiles also forgot their password as well. In fact, I think this is the thing that is preventing the nuclear holocaust. We can improve this a little bit by showing users a simpler way to come back in. We can improve this manifold if we, just like with payments, stop thinking about creating a flow and just give the users a button, or better still, no button at all. And if we recognize that there's someone whom we already know and whom Google can identify for us, just let Google do the hard work. And let me zoom in on this. So for those of you at the back who didn't see the bottom left slide, you literally, seamlessly, and gracefully guide your existing users back in with no additional action or friction required. Skip the sign-in screen. You don't need it. And even that's not all. A lot of the friction, as we mentioned, comes at the account creation stage. A lot of people don't follow through. They just drop off. As with payments, autofill is I was going to say great, not too great. It is a stopgap measure that you can implement, and it will improve things somewhat. But again, think of what you could achieve and how you could improve your account creation process if you could do the same thing as we just saw with auto sign-in. If you could offer the users the chance to create an account seamlessly and at the right place in your app. You saw this screen that looked almost the same for the repeated sign-in user. It looks, from a UI perspective, nearly the same for new users. It just allows me to gracefully and seamlessly continue my experience on your website with credentials that I know and trust. One tap contextual account creation means exactly that. The account is created in one tap, and it's created exactly at the point in the flow where you believe it will have the most impact. And A/B test the hell out of where you put it, and you have full control of where you want to put it in the flow. Before the purchase, on the home page, after the purchase, anywhere. But it's always going to be just the one tap. And finally, implementation. This is just, again, a couple of lines of code which I'm not going to show, but I think an illustration of this is better done by just showing some examples of what this achieves for people. Plenty of examples of sites using it, and the number is growing. Some actual stats of what it brings. And in some ways, it's kind of a no-brainer. You make it easy for people to sign up. Surprise, they do. You make easier for users to remain signed in. They remain signed in. And sometimes you get crazy, scary numbers like 43 times improvement in a particular metric. I suppose to some extent this indicates that maybe in this particular case the initial experience wasn't that tremendously awesome. But if you find yourself in a position of that kind, this is the way for you to go. I'm going to skip the demo on this one because we're not that high on time. We're just going to keep talking because, in fact, something that I definitely don't want to forget mentioning, even before I get to the recap, is that me and my colleagues, throughout the day and tomorrow, during the breaks, we're running the PWA stand outside in the lobby, just sort of in front of here and towards the back, towards the windows. Come talk to us about building for the web and any of these solutions that we just discussed. If you have an interest, you're more than welcome. We can discuss this in detail, and I'll demo the hell out of everything. So let's recap. Friction makes people sad. You remove it with one tap. Security aggravates people. You get the same level as Google security without additional hassle. Quality is a headache for you. You get Google quality of the accounts that you have, engaged and active users. And the implementation of your own account management system and its security and everything that goes with it is normally a pain. Well, you do it with 8 lines of code and 1 product ID and no extra charge. Yet again, for those of you who want to dive deeper into this, come talk to us, visit our developer documentation, and don't forget to check out the IO talks dedicated to this subject. With that, I give it to the next speaker. Thank you very much.